muy emocionante.
Un poquito incómodo cuando... Hi guys, thank you for joining me. In this episode, we're gonna talk about an interesting guy that mm, I, I don't know how to say it. I have been formally know him, but I realized about him. I noticed about him. I mean, like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago in the beginning of the pandemic, and for me it was like a game changer because I didn't know about Driveline till I saw that video. I have heard like just the word Driveline
Mm-hmm.
Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't known any of that till I watched this video in Spanish, and after that I began like making research and reading about that, and then like I felt surprised to know he was Dominican. So thank you for joining me, Juan Carlos, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure being here.
So, first off, how a Dominican end up living in Washington State?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, actually. I mean, the only reason why I'm living here, to be honest with you, is just because I work for Driveline Baseball, which for the people that might not know, is just like what Driveline is, just player development facility, if you want to call it that, that operates here in Washington. I was living in Florida before I moved out here. Got an internship here at the beginning of the pandemic, actually. So like March of 2020. I was 2 weeks into my internship, and then everything shut down. So I ended up, just like working from home for like 3 or 4 months, and then came back, finished my internship, and then was hired full time, or was offered a full time position in September 2020, and I've been here pretty much ever since. Yeah, so I grew up in the Dominican Republic, moved to New York when I was 15, played some JUCO. That obviously being Dominican, that's kind of like where the love for baseball comes from. Played some junior college baseball, wasn't really good. And then while I was playing junior college baseball, my family decided to move to Florida. I was kind of like, my shoulder was not good at the time. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm going to finish my degree and then like try to work in baseball and see what happens. So I finished my degree and then just ended up working a bunch of like random jobs. Like I ended up working at LA Fitness, at the beginning. And then actually had an opportunity to work for a professional baseball team or do an internship in 2017 for a professional baseball team, a major league organization. Did that. And then, like that position kind of like opened my eyes to how like different the industry is inside, like when you work on it versus what we, the fans, see when you're watching a game or when you're following players on Twitter, because like I was a typical guy that was like, if somebody, I don't know, Brian Kenny was talking about like war or something like that, like I was like, that's stupid, you've never played, things like that, but like then you talk to people who like are way smarter than you, and you start to work within an organization and you see the value that like all those things bring. And that, so that kind of opened my eyes to like the next frontier, like the advanced metrics, if you want to call it that. And that's how I kind of got introduced to Driveline. At that moment, I met someone, an intern who was working with the race too, who ended up moving here, working here. He's actually now the director of R&D here at Driveline Baseball. His name is Stan O'Coin. And then, I stayed in touch with him after my time with the Rays. Ended up doing a bunch of random jobs. I wasn't able to get back into baseball. Eventually, I ended up applying here just for the sake of applying, just to kind of say that I applied, but I wasn't really expecting to get hired. I was lucky enough to get hired, like I said, in 2020. Began my internship 2020. Was offered a full-time position September of 2020, I believe, and then I've been here ever since.
Did
Yeah.
you have to move for the way to Washington State for the internship?
Yeah. So I pretty much just I was offered the position in like mid-February or no, late January of 2020. Start date was like March 1st. So I just packed all my stuff in the car, shipped it up here, and then just took a flight from Florida to Washington. I knew I was going to be here for at least 6 months. So yeah, and then ended up like once I got an offer here, of course I met people within Driveline, and yeah, we just became good friends, still good friends today. And then we just got an apartment here, and just like eventually my girlfriend followed here and all that stuff. So now I've been here it's kind of crazy. It's been almost 2.5 years at this point. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a journey.
Yeah, for sure.
When you began the internship position, do you have like a specific position, or you were like grasping for everything?
No, so specifically, I was hired to work on the pitching floor, work with like guys who were looking to get better at pitching, or as a pitching trainer, better said. So yeah, like I knew that was going to be my role coming in. I think I got pretty lucky too. At that time, I think Driveline was looking to like expand into the Spanish speaking market and the Latin market, more specifically. So yeah, they were just looking for like somebody who like had a decent skill set to like eventually learn a lot. To be honest with you, when I came here, it was like I knew very little about like anything related to like tech, right, or like anything at all. To be honest with you, other than like I knew baseball, had a pretty good feel to like communicate with athletes or like other people in general. So yeah, I was hired to like eventually ended up developing those skills, but like I was hired specifically to work as a pitching trainer here at Driveline.
Did you remember the time you met Kyle Boddy?
The first time that I met him?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember actually because I went to the winter meetings right before I got hired, actually, because I didn't know if I was going to get the position. So I just went. I went to winter meetings in San Diego at the end of 2019, and I remember I was walking from the convention center to like go get something to eat or something like that, and Bodie walks past me, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Kyle Bodie, like that's crazy, like, and then next thing you know, like 5 months later, I'm working, for his company, but yeah, first time I met him. I think when I first got here, I didn't meet him in person because he was working for the Reds that season. So he was physically in Washington. He was, in Arizona, and then the whole COVID thing. So I didn't meet him in person. Probably didn't meet him until August of 2020. But yeah, I mean, pretty down to earth guy, pretty chill guy, like down to talk, whatever, whenever, like. Pretty which honestly was surprising, not in bad ways, just like I wasn't expecting that. I'm an intern, don't really know much. I'm not expecting Kyle Bodie to have any type of conversation with me, especially because he runs a company that's, I don't know, has 70 employees. Athletes are coming in and out all the time. We're all busy all the time, so yeah, I mean, it was pretty surreal moment, to be honest with you, that first conversation with Bodie.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Especially story about going to the winter meetings. And I remember when I interviewed John Morosi, that's something he told me, that if you wanna break into the baseball industry and if you can like spend that money, that's a must, like going to the winter meetings, because that's where everything happens basically.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree with that. Like And like I said, I ended up going to the winter meetings. Like I didn't have the money to like fly from Florida to San Diego and like stay for 3 nights, but like I made it happen, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like it's a really good place to like it gives you an idea of how many people want to work in baseball. Um, and the things that you have to do because once you start talking to people, right? Like, yo, like, okay, hey, like, what's your name? What do you do? Where do you go to school? And next thing you know, like, this guy's like has 3 internships already and went
yeah,
to I don't know, like Vanderbilt and got a degree in I don't know statistics or like stuff like that. So like it really puts in perspective like the amount of work you got to put in to like eventually get hired to for for to work for a professional baseball organization. Um, and yeah, I agree with that. Like it's just like a different. You get to meet a lot of people too. So like even if you don't get a job right away, that's honestly that happened to me. Like I think I had 4 or 5 interviews that were all set up like 2 days before I got there. So like I bought a flight, bought the tickets, didn't have anything set up. 2 days before the winter meeting start, I get 4 or 5 different emails confirming interviews. Um, Ended up doing the interviews. One of them specifically, I thought I had no shot. I was like, I sat down with two player development guys for a major league organization. I'm getting bombarded with questions both ways, and I'm like, I finished the interview.
ooh,
I'm like, there's no way I
wow,
even make it past the first round. Next thing you know, I'm like in the last round of the interview process.
whoa,
Yeah, so like, it was great. Like I literally thought that like I had no chance of like getting that job. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's just like if you put yourself out there, like let's say if I didn't make it, past that interview, like past that first step, then like it just gives you an idea. Okay, what do I need to work on, stuff like that. So yeah, but I mean, winter meetings are like if you want to work in baseball, that's probably the best place to go. It's either I think it's either go work at Driveline or go to winter meetings.
yeah.
Like those are like your best 2 options.
That's a pretty good advice for people who's gonna watch this video
Right.
eventually.
Yeah.
So September 2020 was where you began like being no more an intern, but like a full position.
Right. A full
And
time employee.
yeah, so you were hired like a throwing trainer, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And is there like any insight that you can give to the people who's gonna watch this video about how was like your day-to-day routine?
Yeah, I mean, as an intern, right, you do anything and everything. So like a guy comes in for his first day, it's like, okay, and of course you learn this throughout your time here, but like take them through the drill, show them how we do it, what we do it, how many reps, take them to the lab. Um, and then once you do that, right, like you have the general population athletes, right? The guys that had already been training there who come in to train either mid morning or like late afternoon or like in the afternoon. So like from there, it's just like you got to sign athletes, you got to kind of like coach them up. If you see anything that they could be doing wrong in their drills or whatever, let them know. Give them a cue that might help them do X, Y, or Z better. Track their workouts, and then yeah, if there's any like bullpens, you gotta make sure the tech's set up, make sure you have enough time from like the first pen to the second pen, just keeping things on track. And then a lot of like random stuff, like make sure that you clean up the facility like after everybody leaves, like make sure there's not you don't want to come in tomorrow and there's just a mess on the floor for no reason because things like that. Then once I got hired, it was a little more structured, still training athletes, but like working on some projects. Maybe right because by the time I finish, shortly after that, the pro off season starts. Right, so maybe you have a few big leaguers coming in. They're gonna, you're gonna be working with, or maybe the director of pitching, who's Bill Hazel, has a big leaguer coming in. He wants you to like shadow how he works with a big leaguer, and just start learning those kind of things. But overall, it's like if I had to like put it, like the overview of the week is just like once you get hired, or once you're let's say a a month and a half in, it's training athletes, doing athlete meetings, and then maybe working on some other projects, and then like a lot of like pens, pitch designs, things like that on the floor.
I'm gonna try to like make subtitles in Spanish for not English speakers who are watching this video, so
Mhm.
it's gonna be more reachable and more like, because I think that's something fans should educate about, because even though they don't watch it in a game to game basic, like there's not stats to uh, it's not like cybermetrics, like you can introduce cybermetrics to fans through the numbers,
Right.
like mostly all the broadcasts have introduced like the
Mhm.
launch angle, exit velocity, and stuff. But I think it's more complex with project development and conditioning.
Yeah,
And
a hundred
I
percent.
yeah, and I think that what you are doing, because I know that because I followed you, like making the translation for the Spanish side of
Mhm.
Driveline Baseball, that's a pretty good job in terms of
Yeah,
educating people.
yeah, 100%. And like it's honestly it's been really challenging because like we have a decent amount of information in Spanish, right? But like right now it's only me, uh, or it's been only me for the 2 years that I've been here. So like not only do I have to do all the things that on my end, right, to like make sure that I keep my job basically, but also trying to
Yeah,
expand into a whole new market that like doesn't really have anything similar or like has been like it's been growing slowly. But even like the number part of things, right? Like even that people like don't know what like OBP is, things like that. So like
yeah,
trying to introduce a bunch of new training methodologies, to like the public, a specific demographic that like still thinks that like running pulse is the best way to train pitchers, like things like that has been
yeah,
really challenging. And also because like even if you don't follow Driveline, right, like in the States or like a more developed, right, like training, like a country that has like more developed training strategies, like if you Google like best training for baseball players, right? Like even if you don't follow Driveline, like Google's gonna give you a bunch of results.
yeah,
Whether that's like Cressy, uh, like PB, like whatever, like you're gonna get a bunch of sites, right? Like if you Google best training strategies in Spanish for baseball players, like you are not gonna get a lot, right? Like like there's
yeah,
like you're not gonna get any type of like strength and conditioning info. You're not gonna get any type of like pitch design, any like how to write a throwing program, all those stuff. So like trying to like merge all of those categories into like just like and trying to like push that all at once to a market that like doesn't really have that, and it's been slow to like adapt. It's been challenging, but like it's also fun, because like you get to be the guy. If it takes off, then
yeah,
like you are the guy who like made that happen,
yeah. And not only that, because of the growing market, but like a personal satisfaction, like being able to introduce Spanish speakers to a new whole world
Right,
they just ignore 5 minutes before.
right,
That
100%. Yeah,
yeah, that had to be, that had to feel pretty good.
yeah,
And so I think that's something I should have done in the beginning. But can you explain, like in the most simple way, what is Driveline Baseball and what do they do?
yeah. Basically, Driveline Baseball, like I said earlier, is a training, a player development facility that uses objective data to uh, make the best decisions for the player. So basically, our coaching philosophy is that, like we are going to gather a bunch of like baseline numbers for you, and we're going to compare you to your peers if we have that information, and we're going to let you know, hey, you are not good at this and this. These are the steps that we have like proved to like that we have a pretty good knowledge that are going to like make you better. Here's how we're gonna do it, and then we retest. So basically, it's just like data-driven training. Like you come in, you throw 85. We get a biomechanics report on you that gives me like a bunch of positions during your throw. And let's say you still got 1, 2, and 3 things. All right, these are the things that we found that we can impact the most. Here's how we're going to do it. And then we develop a training plan that's going to be 6 weeks. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, we retest and we see if the things, if one, you threw harder, let's say, and two, if the things that you needed to work on got better, right? And it's the same thing on the hitting side. And the hitting side is like you get an assessment, evaluation, whatever, whatever we want to call it. This is how hard you swing. These are like your swing decisions, and this is how good your bat to ball skills are. You suck at this, this, and this. We're going to train for 6 weeks. We're going to retest. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, we're going to meet again and see if those things that we were working on improved. It's just the best chance. Basically, we're giving you a data-driven approach to get better at baseball.
There are like 2 main ways, or at least that's how I see it. Like there's a baseball player who his team sent him to the facility, but there's also the other side of the story, like a free agent that is like struggling a lot,
right?
And he feels inside him like he can do better, like he have the tools, but he needs
he doesn't know how to get himself better.
Yeah, so
right,
he went there. Like there are some stories like Dan Straley. And of course, I think like the most popular story, and because it was like the first guy who make like the improvement in MLB level. I'm talking about Trevor Bauer.
Right.
But
Yeah.
as soon as you begin, I mean, like reading about Driveline, you may notice like guys like Clayton Kershaw,
Yeah.
Alex Wood. I mentioned Dan Straley have been there, and that's what make you like believe that this is for real. Not only the Driveline baseball, but the whole topic, like
of like just getting better.
because it's been 10 years since Buddy found the company.
Yeah. Like you said, like we have different types of athletes who train with us, right? Like, so especially now during the summer, right? So now we have the guys who come in only for 1 week. They get their evaluation, they go home. They might continue to train with us remotely at home, right? We have another guys or some other guys who are going to be here for like 6 weeks, maybe 8. Then we have, or maybe the whole summer, who knows? And then we have the guys who are going to be here for a whole year, right? So like, hey, my goal is to play Division I baseball. Right now, I throw 83. I'm not good enough to play at a Division I school. I'm going to train for a year, and then at the end of that year, hopefully, right, like I've gotten way better at baseball, and now I can go play at a Division I college. And then, like you said, we also have guys who like have either pro experience or are looking to go pro, right? Like guys who like maybe playing college, we're okay, maybe we're hurt or like weren't that good, but now they got better, who are looking to go into professional baseball. And then in a few months, right, like at the end of the MLB season, then we have the pro off season where we have a lot of minor leaguers and a lot of big leaguers who are going to also come here and train with us. But like you said, I think the most famous one, as you said, right, was Trevor Bauer, who like started training with us really early on. But like you said, we had Kershaw in here, Kenley Jansen is being here, Alex Wood, Alex Cobb. Hector Neris is training with us, Dylan Tate, Michael Feliz. Like we have a bunch of guys who have, if you walk into the gym, we have a wall of all the jerseys of like MLB players who have trained with us at some point in the last, 5 years or whatever,
that's really nice.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of jerseys. Like you said, Straley, made it to the bigs, trained with us, made it to the bigs, went to Korea, and then it's now back in the States playing with the Diamondbacks, I believe.
Yeah. The D-backs, minor league contract.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a step forward in my questions. And now that you mentioned like Neris and Michael Felix, I was interested because I know there's like a understanding barrier, not only for conditioning and player development, but
Mm-hmm.
for sabermetrics. And I was curious about like, is that growing like the amount of Latino players who are going to Driveline, which is the place you can like
Right.
relate?
Um, the amount of guys who have like who are trickling in is growing. It's slowly growing, to be honest. But what I have noticed is like once guys are in here, they are bought into the program, right? So they might not know what Driveline is. That was the case with I believe Hector. I mean, I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure he didn't know who we were. His agent was just like, "Yo, like you should go here. They know what they're doing. You know, like just go there." And like he came in after the 2020 season, trained with us throughout the 2021 season, signed with the Astros, and he's still training with us. You know, so like.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, so like even though like he didn't know who we were, like he's like once he was in here, and once we like kept working with him throughout the season, he sees the value in like continuing to train with us. And then we've had a few guys who like a few different players, big leaguers who like have reached out, but like maybe they're not sure because like like it's far from home, it's far from like Miami or whatever. They don't want to make the trip, but like for sure, the interest in Driveline has definitely increased in the last 2 years that I've been here. And we are working to like make that more of a thing, um, and hopefully, there comes a time in which like I don't have enough time to like work with 10 big leaguers throughout the season, and I just need to hire another person who like helps me out with like
Yeah.
training a bunch of like Dominican dudes, or like Venezuelan kids, dudes. But yeah, it's definitely been growing. I think also like touching on that topic, there's a lot of misconception that like, especially in professional baseball, because like I work in professional baseball, I know people still work in professional baseball. There's a misconception that like, oh, land kids, like the land players, they just don't care. Like they don't care about numbers. They don't want to get better. They're just kind of like whatever. Like I'll just show up and play, and like that's actually not the case. Because again, from my experience, once they come in here and they go through like this data driven approach, which is like basically like there's not a lot of like hey, it looks like you're doing this, do this because I played in the big leagues, and like you know that's my whole existence as a coach. Like that's the only thing I know. It's like, no, like do this and this, because guys who like throw hard tend to do that, and like if you want to throw hard, you got to do that. But like once they're in here, like I found that like they are pretty open to like, and they enjoy the training too. That's that. I think a lot of people would be surprised. Like they actually enjoy competing and like training with all the different like implements that we have, right? Because for people that don't know, I should have mentioned this earlier, but like we do use like things that are like underload and overload implements, right? Both on the hitting and throwing side. So we throw things that are both heavier and lighter than a baseball. We swing bats that are heavier and lighter than a typical baseball bat. Uh, so yeah, man, like my experience have been like completely different from what the public might think. Guys usually when they come in here, like usually enjoy and want to learn way more than like what the what the public opinion is about the typical Latin player.
Yeah, that's pretty good to know. Yeah, I'm being in the industry, like in the media side from, well, it's been 8 years. Yeah, I mean, you met like you made like bunch of variety of uh, thinking about that. That's true. Like there's a misconception, like generalization,
Right.
uh, but I think like this is something generational.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Like
Yeah,
it's just like anything else. Like the more the more kids, in the DR see Hector Neris like doing a pitch design, or like a random guy throwing a plyo 98 miles an hour, is like, oh, that's cool. Like it just becomes a thing.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think it's more of a generational thing. It's also like lack of access to things, right? Because like back home,
sure.
people like I said, like you can't just Google like who is the Eric Cressy of the Dominican Republic, because it doesn't exist. It's not a thing. But there are people who are working really hard to become those people back home. So like in 10 years, you might be able to Google best strength and conditioning trainer in the Dominican Republic for baseball, and you're gonna get five different guys. You're gonna Google what's the best training facility in Santo Domingo, and you're just gonna get three options. So like kids are just gonna have way more things more access to like training in 10 years than they do now, just because it's going to become more popular. Just like the access to information is just going to be way higher than it is now.
Yeah, and one way to like get more information and also being able to pursue like a career, not only like because I used to make some videos about like when I talk with Morosi, with Enrique Rojas about like advising young journalists, but also if you want to be in the other side of the industry, like working for a team, I think like Driveline Baseball have pretty good research for that. They are expensive. They are, especially
Right.
for a Dominican currency,
Right.
but it's an investment. So, and that's the way you should see it. And I would like you to like introduce them to like the, how can I say it? Not the pensum, but like the main courses like that they can apply for,
Yeah.
or they can
Um,
purchase.
yeah. So I mean, so the best thing, so like, let's say nobody knows anything about Driveline. You're watching this for the first time. First thing you got to do, and you're a Spanish speaking coach, player, parent, whatever. First thing you can do is like, one, go to our website, click on blogs, and then it's like we have a section in español. So like all you got to do is like there's a bunch of like free, like our most popular articles since like 2012 are like translated to Spanish, and some of them are going to be like hard to understand, just because like if you don't know what TrackMan is, right, like you can read the article, it's just not going to know, like it's just not going to make sense, right? But you can start there. The other option that you have is like we have a membership, annual membership that's called Driveline Plus. It's $189 a year. What does that get you? It gets you discount on products. So like if you are interested in like our plyos, our bats, whatever, you get a discount on that. But you also get discounts on the certifications, which are the things that you mentioned. And you have access to like a bunch of educational videos that you don't have to pay for as well. But as far as the certification, we have three main certifications, four actually. One is the foundations of pitching. So basically just a foundation about like how we structure training in gym here at Driveline. The next one is going to be the foundations of hitting. So that's going to be the same thing, how we structure hitting. How do we assess hitters? How do we structure training for hitters? And then the third one, it's going to be the pitch design certification. So like how to, basically pitch design, you're trying to make the pitcher's arsenal better. So like how do you do that using technology? And then the fourth one is going to be the youth youth certification. So basically, how do you implement some of our training methodology to athletes who are like 9, 11, 12, maybe 15, and things like that. Those are going to be the main ones. But again, with that like Driveline Plus, you get access to like a bunch of other videos, so, like are not necessarily a certification, but you can watch Dan O'Coin talk about pitch movement, like things like that. So yeah, definitely the best. That would be the best option. And like I said, you also, once you have Plus, you have a discount on all the other certifications as well.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And moving forward to like with all these like 2 years and 3 months that you've been in Driveline, I I bet that like it's a different animal now. How you watch the baseball games, like the MLB season, like
Hmm.
it's not the same. Like for me, for example, like I can see like beyond the numbers, like the traditional numbers, and let's name it like Fangraphs numbers,
Hmm. Hmm.
like with baseball saber now. But you can see further than that because you have studied like mechanics and biomechanics. Like
Right.
you can translate with your eyes what you are watching at that moment. But for example, Josiah Gray today, like he was nasty with the slider, but you can
Hmm.
go beyond that, right?
Right.
Just
Yeah.
by it's like video scouting, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, the one, like, the more you learn about something, the you just start to look at it differently, right? So, like, um, you might think that, like, that, oh, this guy's slider sucks, because to the eye it sucks. It doesn't move much, and then you look at the numbers and you're like, actually, that's a pretty good pitch considering like where his fastball is. Or this guy's like, you're watching the game, right? You're like, and this guy's just like throwing slider after slider after slider after slider. You're like, that's weird. Like, why is he not throwing the fastball? And then you look at the numbers and you're like, huh, that makes sense. His fastball's not that good. His slider is like really, really good. So he's just gonna throw his best pitch the most, like the most often, especially if he's coming out of the pen, right? Yeah, and also like, hey, like you can see a guy like throwing, and you like in your head like, I bet if he did like this, and this differently, he might be able to like, throw a little harder. Not necessarily like throw like go from like 91 to 97, but like he might be able to like unlock something, things like that. Um, and then also like game planning too, right? So like I mentioned that I work with Hector throughout the season, so like we offer scouting reports as well, right? So like uh, now, because I don't know, they played the Rangers a bunch, right? So like
Yeah.
now if I'm watching a Rangers game, right, and like Adolis Garcia steps up to the play, I'm like, I know Adolis Garcia like whiffs at like, I don't know, changeups like early in the count, like 50% of the time. So like this pitcher should probably throw a changeup, things like that. You
Yeah.
start to notice a lot more things than just like strike one, strike two, ball in play, 6-3 put out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something that caught my attention. Like I don't know, 2 days ago you wrote something about how people, I don't know if in the media, but or like savvy fanatics are like overusing or overestimating like the spin thing,
Right.
the spin rate, and I, I would like you to explain me what's your
Yeah.
take on that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's actually funny that you bring it up because I said the same thing to somebody else yesterday, literally last night. But when we first learned about spin rate, it was good, right? Like, all right, let me backtrack. People like we associated higher spin rate with the pitch being better, right? And we all did it. But just because you have high spin rate doesn't mean that your pitch is good or bad, because there are other factors that affect the break or movement of the pitch that have a way bigger impact than spin rate. So if you want to break it down, the easiest way to think about spin rate is just like potential movement. So a spin rate just tells you like the potential of the movement of the pitch. So if you have a spin rate of like 1500 and I have a spin rate of 2200, I just have a higher potential to create more movement on the pitch. However, you have other factors that also come into play when you talk about pitch movement. So that's going to be spin efficiency. So spin efficiency is just how much of the spin that you're imparting on the ball is contributing towards movement, right? So if you have a fastball that's 2,000 RPMs and my fastball is 1,800 or like let's say 1,500, to make it even more dramatic, but your spin efficiency is 50% and mine is 97%. The movement on my fastball is going to be better than yours because I just have I use more of the spin that I create than you do. Um, yeah. And so people still associate with like spin rate with like, oh, that's just like that's just more movement. And that's not always the case. Also, like where you throw from affects like the movement of the pitch. And on top of that, there are other factors that play a role uh, in like pitch movement that we still don't know much about. So like uh, Barton Smith is the main guy who's written and like done a lot of research as far as like sim shifted wake, and basically that is like the the way the ball interacts with the air might change, might make the ball move more than we thought, based on how the seams are flying through the air and interacting with the air molecules, basically. Um, so basically, you can have a pitch that like Trackman or like Rapsodo only says it broke like um, 7 inches, but it actually like if you go on Savant, you can see that it moved up a lot more, and we're still learning a lot. So like that's the main thing. So like spin ratios like gives you an idea of like the potential of the movement of the pitch, but there are more things that are, in my opinion, way more important than spin rate as far as like how good a pitch can be.
Yeah, it's
And
just,
most people overrate it.
yeah, it's still a new toy after all.
Right.
And you can make like the similarity with velocity, like in a different way, but there's a bunch of sample of guys who throw gas and that's it.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's
Like yeah. If you like, don't get me wrong. Like throwing hard is good. Like, but um, if you go to double A, you're gonna see a bunch of guys that throw hard, but like they don't make it out of double A. But the reason why they don't make it out of double A is because they don't throw hard, right? The fact that they made it to double A, it's because they throw hard. So the difference between somebody who throws 100 and never makes it past double A versus the guy who like throws 100 and is in the big leagues, it's one could be pitch characteristics, but very likely it's just better command, right? So like you just go walk way less hitters, which gives you a chance to just have more success. So if you're in double A walking, 35 15%, of the hitters you face, that's just not good. Like doesn't matter if you throw 100, but if you throw 100 and you K a bunch of guys and you only walk 10% of the hitters you face, like you might be able to get away with that at the big league level. With a 15% walk rate and a low K rate, like you're just not going to be able to get away with that stuff in the big league. So like velocity is definitely the number one factor as far as like predicting almost like how far you're going to go as far as like, yeah, if you want to play in the big leagues, like you're better off throwing 95 than you are throwing 91. But
sure.
again, there are guys in the big leagues who throw 91. However, like erring on the side of like velocity, it's probably the safe bet, because once you're there, then we can start working on the other stuff, right? But it's very hard for you to be throwing 87. Like if you throw 87, you're not gonna get drafted in the third round, right? Or you're probably not getting drafted at all. But if you throw 91, have an idea of where the pitch is going, right? Or have good command, right? That's what we call it. Then we can develop velocity, and like they'll get you closer to the big leagues, basically.
I can't finish this interview without asking, how was your experience working for Águilas Ibaeñas?
Uh, Good thing that you bring it up. So I work with Las Águilas for the summer. It was a summer camp, so I haven't had a chance to like work in winter ball, which is something that I would actually like to do. So who knows if something comes up this off season or maybe next. But I would love to work in winter ball at any point. But like it was a really good experience, especially because I was young when I did it, so it just gave me like a lot of autonomy, or like just like, hey, you got to be here and have 50 kids, make sure that all like get at bats and get around, like all that kind of stuff. And like it's nothing complicated when you're 21 and you haven't really done anything,
Yeah.
you haven't been in charge of anyone. It's just a good thing to do, or a good experience to have. Yeah, and like the treatment that we all got while I was working for Aguilas, I believe that was in 2012, 2012, I believe.
Yeah, I actually read it like
Yeah.
2 hours ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
It was really
2012.
good. It was really good experience. Yeah, I enjoyed my time there. With that being said, I would love to like work for a winter ball team at some point, and hopefully, like use some of the knowledge that I have now to like make changes to those teams in winter ball and like take advantage of like a lot of the things that like the other teams are not doing.
Yeah.
It would
What
be
did
like
you?
Moneyball, the Oakland A's Moneyball in 2002, but in the Dominican Republic in 2022, 23.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Santiago.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up in Santiago. I moved to the States when I was 15. I was a sophomore going into my sophomore year of high school.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So, thanks a lot, Juan Carlos, for joining me. And more than that, for like bringing out information that people, I don't think they can find it that easy. I remember when you were like teaming with Alex for 217, and there's actually pretty good information there for Spanish audience. If they want to take a look on YouTube, it's
100%.
217 en
Yeah.
español. And again, I think that could be like addition. I don't know how to describe it, but thanks for that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. If anybody's interested in like learning more about like Driveline specifically in Spanish, we have our Instagram, which is Driveline Español, or the ad is going to be DL Español. Same on Twitter, and then my baseball account is going to be Rodriguez, my last name, baseball. And yeah, just trying to like put out a lot of content as far as like what we do. Again, so the next generation of like Latin baseball players have a better chance, or like can just like take even more advantage of their talents. You know.
Sure.
Um, yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to the next time that we meet.
Sure, sure. You can count on that. And so see you in another time, and keep like keep a mind on the channel. So I'm gonna be releasing new material. I know I haven't been that committed the last couple of months, but
Yeah,
I'm back at it. So
yeah.
see you
There
soon.
we go.
Bye.
That's all that matters. Thank you.
Yeah.